Morning, welcome to Former Biped. This is a follow-up video on Affinity, using Affinity Publisher to create an ongoing document, such as a journal, a sketchbook, scrapbook, a comic book, a zine, something. Some of those you obviously want to have ongoing. Some of them you would start, you could set a zine or a comic book to a predefined limit, but if you don't want to, it's really nice to start in Affinity and you add pages and so on. I am going to first, I started a video a couple weeks ago and I really got lost on some of this. I couldn't get it to work. And I think I figured out why. It was about doing filters, a liquify filter. And I want to follow up on that. And I haven't been able to do it for almost 2 weeks now, a week and a half, because my blood pressure has been so low. I mean, I've been fainting. I've been avoiding stairs because going downstairs when you're on the verge of fainting is really stupid and scary. Anyway, first I want to look at, I have to go in Publisher, check my pages, make sure I'm on the right page. That's often a problem. And I'm going to go into Photos. And I'm going to pick, first I'm going to go into Layers. I don't need that liquify. So I've got this photo. And I want to, over on the right-hand side, there is a thing that looks like an hourglass. It's filter. It's kind of the universal filter icon, like in data and anyway, whenever you want to filter something. And before I get into that, I want to show you in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a box with a question mark in it. Press down and hold that. You will get on the left-hand side, it'll tell you what all your tools are. On the right-hand side, it'll tell you all your menus, which basically are, things that where you can dig deeper, like your text tool and your brush tools and your layers and all that. And it has menus within menus. And then across the top is the context toolbar. When I say up across the top is the context toolbar. And that will change depending on what you're using. If you're using a brush or the selection tool or a fill tool, gradient, transform tool, any of those, what options are there will change, and you can adjust things there. You can adjust them on your in your tool menus on the right, or quite often you will have more tools or more sliders adjustments on the left, like for brush size and opacity are the main ones, but Affinity has several others. Okay, so I've gone over that, and let's say we pick our photo, and I go into the filters, and I'm going to pick distortion filters, and I'm going to go down to mesh warp, and you will see that it just puts a box, a bunch of little corner tabs around that. In a lot of other apps, it'll actually have a mesh diagram in there, like a grid, and you can tap in there and move it from within. This one you can't. It works differently, but you move it like that, by moving the corner or the handles. You can also move it from the side. But what I've done, I'm going to undo all of that. I do not want a mesh warp there, because what that does is it causes a permanent change to your image. Let's say that you warp it and then the next day you want to go back to the way it looked. I think maybe I like that original. And you can't, because you've changed it. The pixels have been set. So what you want to do is go back into the filters, and below where I picked the distortions filter, it says add live filters. This is such a helpful tool because basically you add a clipping mask to that layer. So now I turn that on and I go to mesh warp. And if you look in the layers panel, it's showing a clipping mask with mesh warp below the photo. So now I can move it and swing it around. I can bring this corner way over just to distort the crap out of it. But if I turn off that layer, the photo is still there in the original. Whereas you can see the mesh, that's still on the screen here because I've tapped that layer. And I can tap it back on and the photo is warped, or I can delete that layer and I've got the original photo. That's what you want to use. It's just really good practice. It's one of the really nice things in Affinity. And other apps probably have something like this. Not all of them. Some of them do, some of them don't. Another thing that you can do, I'm not going to use Liquify because I was trying to get this to work with Liquify, which is on the distortions filters right above mesh warp, and I couldn't get it to work. So what's going on? I think I figured that out. So if you look at, up here, because I entered this photo from Publisher, and it says Photo and Designer and Publisher, but you're only getting the really limited tools within Photo or Designer. And I'm not going to go into Designer. That has several things that are useful. They have other studios like for exporting and I think for artboards, and something compiling or compositing. I really don't know. I haven't used Designer very much, just a little bit. But Photo, I'll open a document in Photo, and up in this corner, I've already opened that before. You can see you've got Photo, Liquify, Develop, Tone Mapping, and Export. And these are studios within Photo. And the only one that you can access from Publisher in version 2 is Photo. And that's like you can draw and paint and resize things and do some filters, but not all of them, and effects and blend modes and so on. But you can't do all of them because Liquify is a separate studio. Oh, and Develop, I think that's kind of like Lightroom in Adobe Lightroom. But you can you've got studios here for color grading and developing a raw image and so on. But let's go to Liquify, and I have to do this differently. So now let's go into Liquify. And you can see on the left, we've got a whole other studio with all these different tools. And that is not accessible when you do that through Publisher in version 2. And I can warp it. And if I leave that studio, it says, do I want to save those changes? No. I want to get rid of that because I want to go back into layers, and you notice that I already used a Liquify mesh. Back to Photo. Why did I get that? Okay, so there I am, and here I can turn it off, and I've got the original photo. I can turn that Liquify layer back on, and I've got the warping. That's how you want to do it, just like with like I did with the mesh warp, is you want to use Liquify this way. Whatever they're called, live filters. That is a really useful thing, and I don't have it turned on now because it's waiting for me to put on another app or another filter, and I don't want to do that now. But I think that covers what I wanted to say here. Version 3 on version 2, Publisher came the closest to what they're doing with version 3, where you can access, you can do all the artwork, even though you're working with a publication, a document like a poster or a book or something. You can go back, you can go into Designer and Photo and draw and paint. But version 3 is taking that, pushing that further. This was it end of October 2025. They released version 3 on computer, and it's all in one now. So all the studios that affect Designer and Photo and Publisher, all of that is in one. And also, if you have a subscription for AI crap on Canva, that's there too. And you can do it all in one. They haven't even, as far as I know, haven't even released a what do you call those? The beta version of Affinity version 3 for iPad. They haven't done that yet. Last year they did for the beta version 3 for I think they announced that in June for the computer, and they released it in October. So maybe in a couple of months we'll get a beta version. I'm not going to use it. And I hope by the end of 2026 we will get the full version 3 for iPad. It is fantastic. It's flexible. I hope this explains what I was missing in that last video about using Affinity for doing an ongoing document. I probably have a lot more to say on the subject, but for now I'm just going to call it quits. And I think that's enough. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, and